అన్నోన్ నెంబర్స్ బ్లాక్ లో ఉంది సార్. ఈ నెంబర్ ఈ రోజే తీసాను. ఈ రోజే సెట్టింగ్స్ అన్ని మార్చాను. అవి అల్లానో పడిపోయాను. కానీ
classification, right? So in classification, we studied the logistic regression, k-list neighbor, disease entries, support vector missions, linear support vector missions, support vector missions, non-linear support vector missions, and one of the ensemble algorithm is nothing but random forest, right? So in modeling, we need to do the tuning the hyperparameters of the your classifier or classification algorithm. So in logistic regression, so what is the tuning hyperparameter? Cost is the tuning parameter. So you are regularizing your classifier using the cost parameter in logistic regression. So how do we do the data splitting? So there are many criterions, like, so we can take the 70% and 30%, 80% and 20%, and 60 and 40. Okay. So here, so how many features we are considering viewer? So here we can do the feature reduction. So feature reduction by using the supervised based feature selection algorithm or unsupervised supervised algorithm. So in supervised learning algorithm, we came up with the one of the outstanding algorithm, which is known as the RFE, recursive feature elimination. So in recursive feature elimination, what we will do? So we remove the which are the unwanted variables in our data modeling. So it will remove automatically. So based on your feature importance. So then what you will do? Then we build our model on our given training portion. So if we consider 70 and 30, then here in training data, we consider the 70% of data as a training. So here we are learning our system. So how our logistic regression going to perform our heart disease data, whether we are suffering from coronary artery disease or not, right? So prior to testing your unseen data, so what we will perform? We do some cross validation, right? So within the training data, we are going to validate our training. So how our classifier is going to performing on training, and when we will go for on testing, so in between we need to cross validate or validate our classifier performance. So whether we are achieving the good accuracy or bad accuracy. So here we can select the based on your data size. So if you are working on some limited data, simply we can go with the 3-fold cross validation or 5-fold cross validation. If you are having more data, then simply we can opt the 10-fold cross validation, right? So once you will see your training accuracy on this data, then we can validate our model. So then we apply our classifier on our 30% of our testing data, right? So like we can perform our data modeling. Okay, so right. So in a logistic regression, what is the tuning hyperparameter? Cost is the tuning parameter. So you are doing the reverse regularization of your error loss. So if you refer more, what is the cost parameter? So how do we optimize how do we choose the best K parameter in your logistic regression, right? Okay. So in K-nearest neighbor algorithm, so which is the tuning parameter? So K is the tuning parameter, right? So K is the tuning parameter. So how do we record the data over here? Okay, recording. Yeah, fine. Right. So in K-nearest neighbors, so we optimize the K parameter in our K-nearest neighbor algorithm, right? So K parameter. So how do we choose the K parameter in our K-nearest neighbor algorithm? So we can assign the some of the grid K values between 1 to 20. We could come up with so where we can achieve the best K value or best K parameter for your classification. So similar way, here also we can come up with the different data splitting, right? So how do we are going to model the data? So based on your data experimentation, so we can experiment the data. So 70-30, 80-20, 60-40 or 65-35 such a way. Then we can see how our K-nearest neighbor algorithm is performing on our training data, 10-fold cross validation, and on our unseen 30% of on our testing data, right? So coming to decision trees, so which is the non-parametric. So in generally parametric and non-parametric, when your classifier or your classification algorithm is going to classify your positive and your negative class, simply we can say, so our data is linearly separable. So when your data is not linearly separable, then we go for the non-linear based classifiers or non-linear based computational methods. So here the decision tree is the one of the non-linear or non-parametric based computational algorithm. So how do we do tuning the hyperparameters in the decision trees? So in decision trees, we can tune some of the hyperparameters such as depth parameters, minimum sample sleeve, and minimum sample split. So based on your so based on your tuning, so we can select the best hyperparameters from your decision trees. So here also we are performing data splitting. So based on our data experimentation, so again we are performing the training. So within the training data, we are cross-validating our model performance. So are we achieving the
small input, sir?
Okay.
Screen is not visible, sir.
Screen is okay. Now it is visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, right. Okay. So once we build the training on our 70% of your data, so then you will see what is our model accuracy, right? So then we are cross-validating within the training data by considering some folds, like 5-fold cross-validation or 10-fold cross-validation. Then we are seeing our model performance on our unseen 30% of your data. So I think, yeah, I already shared. Okay. Okay. In support vector missions, in linear support vector mission, so if your data is linearly separable, so you're classifying your positive class and your negative class, right? So here in support vector missions linear modeling, so cost is the one of the hyperparameter. So in similar way, we can model our data from training, cross validation, and testing. You can see how our linear classifier is classifying our target variable. So like we can trade off so all your classifiers or classification and algorithms on your data, how our model is performing, whether it is good or bad, or we are encountering any model complexity or model overfitting. So in non-linear support vector mission, so we can come up with some of the best hyperparameter such as the cost, GAM, and the kernel. So in kernels, we have many kernels like radial basis kernel, Gaussian, linear, and polynomial. So here we can consider the radial basis function. So RBF kernel to tuning some of the hyperparameters in our non-linear support vectors missions. So again, we can take some splitting criterion like 70-30, 80-20, and 60-40, and we can model our data on training and cross validation on testing. We can see how our model is performing. Okay. So finally, in random forest algorithm or ensemble algorithm, so we could come up with some of the best hyperparameters like depth parameters, n estimators, minimum sample sleeve, and minimum sample speed. Okay. So we can model our data on training, cross validation, and testing. We can see how our 6 classification algorithms are performing on our coronary heart disease data, right? So do we have any questions over here, team?
If you have a query, please answer.
Any questions, team? Ravichandra. Yeah, go ahead, Ravichandra. You can unmute and speak.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Sir, among all these algorithms, okay, if speed point of view, which one is best, sir? Accuracy point of view, which one is best? Like that, can you able to, any specific applications are there for better algorithms, sir?
Okay. So very good. So once we do data experimentation or a data modeling, so from logistic regression to random forest, right? So at initial point of view, so when we do modeling, so we don't know which classifier is going to perform well, right? But we could say that if we have the vast or used data, so obviously we can go directly to random forest classification. So because the random forest is an ensemble technique, so most of the time it will not overfit, right? So if we have very limited data, so 300 data points or 200 data points or 250, like, so then simply we can apply the logistic regression or k-nearest neighbor. Okay, so based on your computation and timing, etc. So, and finally, we could come up with all 6 classifiers or 6 classification algorithms. So we can see the trade-off among all algorithms. So in training accuracy, in cross-validation. So in cross-validation and testing, we can see whether our model is overfitting or not. You got my point, Charan?
So got it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Got it.
Yeah. Good. Right? So Lata is is asking about which is the linear and which is the non-linear. Very good question, Lata. So in our algorithm, so we could come to know that which is the linear models, which are the non-linear models, right? So except support vectors linear modeling, so remaining are the non-linear techniques, right? So in the beginning, we are talking about the which are the non-linear, which are the non-linear. So based on your data. So once you do the data modeling, so if your data is linearly separable, suppose now we are considering the coronary heart disease data. So whether my support vector versus linear classifier is going to classify or not. So if you are achieving the very good accuracy, then we could say our data is linearly separable. So here, support vectors linear model is the linear classifier. So suppose if your data is not linearly separable, then we can go for non-linear classifiers or non-linear based computational methods like loss regression, K-Nielsen-Neighbor, decision trees, support vectors non-linear and random forest. So this is not a big deal. So if the data is linearly separable, we need not to worry about it. If it is not linearly separable, then we can go for non-linear techniques. Kushuma. Yeah, Kusuma, you can ask.
I'm unable to unmute your mic.
Okay. So, and here in the chart, we are seeing the question from the Soda. She's asking if number of features selected or extracted more than how it will on model. If number of features selected or extracted, then how it will affect in our model. Yeah, good. So when we build our model, so based on your set of independent variable, so might be you will see how our classifier is performing than our training data and cross validation and testing, right? So if you are encountering any model overfitting, right? So in model overfitting might be some of the features are not fitted into your model. So then obviously we want to reduce the dimensionality of your data because some of the features are not relevant to your model or your data modeling. So then what we will do, we reduce your data dimensionality. So how do we reduce your unwanted data dimensionality? By using some of the supervised or unsupervised feature-based algorithms or feature-based techniques. So yesterday we talked about one of the supervised algorithm, which is nothing but recursive feature elimination. So RFE, so we worked on the random forest algorithm. So then we chosen some of the important relevant features from your coronary or disease data, then we model it. So then again, we noticed after the feature selection, so whether my model is performing or not performing. So when you do data experimentation or data modeling, so feature engineering is the heart of your applied predictive modeling. So how we make the features, how to reduce the features. Right? Okay. Okay. So Kalyan Chakravarti is asking about, so in which particular cases are SVMs are preferred to random forest? Yes. So here we don't have the exact scale for, so where do we apply the support vector missions? Where do we apply the random forest? If I say go for support vector missions or go for the random forest, so you will, by the default, you will apply the that particular algorithm. So here I would not say go for a random forest or support vector mission. So what I suggest is do the data experimentation. So do the data experimenters with some of the classification algorithms. Then we come to know how our algorithms are performing. So we are talking, if your data is linearly separable, then obviously our linear classifier is performing good. If your data is not linearly separable, then we go for the non-linear techniques. Okay.
On the participation, we have a question from Dr. PVS.
So,
Sir, good morning, sir. Good morning,
yeah,
sir.
good morning. Yeah, Prasad.
Sir, when we can use quartiles, sir, actually?
Quartiles.
Yes.
Quartiles. Okay. So, yeah, give me, I will share the screen. Will you able to see my screen?
We're able to see MS Office.
No. You're not seeing my Jupyter notebook, right?
No.
Okay. Now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the process is asking about the, so when do we apply the quartiles, right? So in descriptive modeling or in the data exploration, yesterday we talked about the some of the summary statistics. Yeah. Okay. So could you able to see my screen?
Sir, I can request you to unmute your mic if you raise your hand.
Okay.
Please raise your hand.
Could you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir. I can visible.
Okay. So in data exploration, so we can do the descriptive statistics. So simply we can study the summary statistics or the descriptive statistics of your data. So in power plant data we have 4 independent variables, 1 target variable. So from your 9,568 data points. So that is your data count. So from each independent variable, so ambient temperature, vacuum, ambient pressure, and relative humidity. So we are studying so what is the mean of my ambient temperature? So what is the my mean of vacuum? So like we can study some of the descriptive statistics or summary statistics on your data. So here we can see the standard deviation, minimum, 25th percentile, 50th percentile, and 75th percentile. So these are nothing but quartiles, right? So here we have the 100 points of your data. So from here you are computing the 25th percentile. So this is the value for your 25th percentile. Okay, so this is the value for your 50 percentage of your percentile, or and 70 percentage percentile. So what is the importance of this studying the quartiles in our data exploration or in data modeling? Sometimes if you do modeling, some outliers may harm your data or your data modeling. So after doing the feature extraction, so now you are choosing some of the very good features, and you are feeding into your training algorithm. Sometimes you are achieving the good accuracy, sometimes you are not achieving the good accuracy. So then what you will do, then you have to do the outliers detection. Because which are the outliers? If you find the outliers in your data, see below this here quartile 1, so minimum. So here in minimum, so which are the below minimum area? So those are the outliers. Okay, right? So if I take the below 25th percentile, okay, so above 70 percentile, so then those data points will be considered as the outliers in your data. So in data modeling, outlier detection is also very, very important in data modeling. If you are encountering any outliers in your data, you have to remove them. So how do we detect whether my data is suffering from any outliers or not? Simply you can plot your data, right, through box plot. This is one of the data visualization techniques. We come to know whether we are having any outliers in our data. So these are the quartile 1 and quartile 3 are nothing but 25th percentile and 75th percentile. Okay.
Sir, we have a question in the chat box.
So okay. So Tararai Dharmarai is asking about, so how do you use machine learning algorithm in a bank locker security system? So might be so how do we make the some of the security measures for your use case? So might be based on your application and use case. So might be we could come up with either the classification or the regression based techniques. So Lata is asking about difference between the quartile and the enfolding. So folding, so the cross validation for our validating our model between the training and the testing. So there we are considering the n-fold criteria. So 3-fold or 5-fold or 10-fold. So in data exploration, we are talking about the quartiles, right? If you want to notice or estimate or detect any outliers in your data, then we will study about the quartiles. So 25th percentile, 50 percentile, and 70 percentile. So this is in data exploration, in data descriptive analysis, we will experience with the quartiles. So whereas in the classification or in the regression, we will talk about the folding. N-folding means K-fold. Okay? Yeah. Okay, right. So Raghavendran is asking about explain about different encoding techniques and the pros and the cons. So there are many encoders are there, Raghavendran. So based on the your modeling and techniques, and so then accordingly we could come up with many encoding encoders. So mostly in the machine learning or in the deep learning. So accordingly we can come up with those encoding techniques. Okay. So Venkat is asking about how to multi-feature extraction and clustering algorithms for trading image and video segmentation. So here in image classification. So here we could come up with some of the image based techniques to reduce your background of your image data. So most of the in image classification, so we may encounter some of the noise in your image data. So by using some of the signal processing techniques or some of the statistical based techniques, so we can reduce the gray matter in your image data. So like we can segment the data and we can model our image data. Right. So in clustering, in unsupervised algorithms, so using the k-means clustering and hierarchical clustering, we can also reduce the data dimensionality for our better clustering, like k-means clustering and hierarchical clustering. So similar way, so which features we are going to extract. So based on some of the feature based techniques. So you are working on the wrapper based or filter based or statistical based or any other models. So Raghavendran, so please name some encoder. So you can find what are the encoders from your, if you browse something, no? So how do we come up with the different encoders in the algorithms? So in deep learning or in the machine learning, straight away. So you can do some browsing. So then we will come to know which are the some of the encoders, right? Okay. So here we can take the quick break for another 5 minutes. We come back. Page again. in regression modeling, so may I know which are the important evaluation metrics for the regression. So in regression modeling, we will study the how our model is performing. So are we receiving good model or bad model? So in regression modeling, we study some of the evaluation metrics such as RMSE or mean absolute error and R square. So coefficient of determination. So from those evaluation metrics, so we can trade off our algorithms, how they are performing. So in classification, we can choose which evaluation metric is suitable for my model evaluation. So then we need to come up with so how many are false positives, how many are the false negatives in my data. If you want to reduce the false positiveness in your data modeling, so which evaluation metric to consider, or else if we are encountering more false and negatives in my data modeling, so in which evaluation metric we need to consider. So we need to study the data, and based on your data experimentation and data modeling, so which evaluation metric we need to talk all the time. So primarily we can come up with the model accuracy, how our model is performing on our training data, cross validation and testing. Right? Okay. So any questions so far? So Sudha is asking about, can you please suggest enhanced RBM for a text summarization? May I know what is the RBM over here? Yes, Sudha, you can unmute and you can talk. Oh, restricted Boltzmann machines. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Right. Yeah, Sudha. So, right, we can come up with the RBF in text summarization. So, yeah, very good question. Yeah, network problem. Very good question, RBF. So, I'm just checking whether it is the RBF or the radial basis, and okay, fine. Good. Yeah, we could come up with restricted Boltzmann constant or restricted Boltzmann machines for this text summarization. Yeah. Okay. Right. So now we are going to study about the class imbalance in your data. Right. Right. So could you able to see my screen?
Sure.
Could you able to see my screen? Yes. Okay. Fine.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So this is the R environment. So I'm teaching regarding the class imbalance in your data. Okay. So treating the class imbalance in your data modeling is very, very important when you will work on the modeling. Okay. So what is the class imbalance in your data? So in our heart data, we are going to predict whether the patient is suffering from the heart disease or no heart disease, right? So in our data, so this is our data. So I'm calling the data. So these are our variables. So V1 to V9, right? So V1 to V9 is our independent variables. Our target variable is 0 and 1, whether the patient belongs to CHD or no CHD. Okay. And then we are making the so I'm checking how the class 0 and class 1 are distributed in our data. Right? So here, so we can see some class imbalance in our data, right? So almost below 50% of your positive class when you compare to your negative class. Here is the 0 is your negative class. Am I right? So negative means no coronary artery disease, and 1 means coronary artery disease. So here we are observing the class imbalance in your data. So what you will do if you have any class imbalance in your data? Okay. So here if you encounter any class imbalance in your data, so then obviously we need to treat this data. So why we want to give the importance for the class imbalance, right? So if you model your data, so here is the 1 is the minority class and 0 is the majority class. So when we train our system, obviously it will predict you as a negative class. If you train your system with the positive class also, so based on your class imbalance, your data on majority of your class, all the time it predicts only that majority class only, right? So then we could balance we could balance the data using some of the class imbalance learning algorithms. Okay, so class imbalance learning algorithm. So if you are working on the 2-class problem or binary classification, if you are encountering any class imbalance between your positive class and negative class, so in our environment, we could come up with the ROSE and DMWR libraries. So ROSE is random oversampling estimation. So this is the library I called you, right? Right, ROSE. So ROSE is the random oversampling estimation. So in Python environment, we have the SMORT library. SMORT library, right? The SMORT is nothing but synthetic minority oversampling technique. SMORT algorithm in Python environment. Okay. Yeah. So I can clean this data over here. I can clean this data over here. So here I can call so we got the question from okay. So here we are looking at how many are 0, how many are 1. Can you able to see my screen, team?
It's R tool, sir. I can
Yeah.
see R
Yeah.
tool screen.
Yeah, R tool. So now we are seeing the class imbalance in our data. So the class imbalance. So how many are data points are belong to positive class? How many are belong to negative class? Right. So here, primarily we are checking our data, right? So we're checking the positive class are 160 and the negative class are 302. So here we can see some class imbalance there in our data. We can plot it. Right? So here we have the majority of the class is 0, and here the minority class is the 1. So we are noticing the class imbalance between your positive class and your negative class. So here all the time we need to treat the class imbalancing in your data using the some of the class imbalance learning algorithm. So in our environment, we have the rows library. So random oversampling estimation, and also one more library, DMWR, data mining with R. So if it is the more than two class imbalancing, so then we could come up with the one of the hard library in our environment, which is nothing but DMWR, data mining with R. If it is the two class problem, then simply we could come up with the rows, random oversampling estimation. If you are not familiar with the Havan environment or R statistical language, so if you are familiar with the Python environment, so in Python environment, we can see the one of the SMOT library. So there we can see the oversampling, undersampling, and balancing your data by using the SMOT library or SMOT algorithm, synthetic minority oversampling technique, SMOT algorithm. Okay. Okay. So here we can do the data balancing. So here we do the data balancing. So after that, this is our data after class imbalancing. Okay. Now we will check the right. So now here we treated the data by using the rows algorithm. Then we got the 0 are 245, 1s are 217. And previously, how many we got? We got 0 for 302, 1 for 160. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, fine. Okay. So yeah. So Lata is asking about So R language is the best for ML, everyone, or one is say Python. Might be when we will work on the both the R environment and Python. So Python is somewhat the like when you compare the code writing and all. So easily we can understand the thoroughly. We could come up with the code part and all. So when we will compare to the R and Python. But when we'll talk about more libraries and the algorithms part, so might be you can see the plenty of libraries in R environment when you compare to Python environment. So both the like Python and R are the free sources. So we can explore more. Either you might be interested in Python environment or might be in R environment. So might be MATLAB is the licensed one. So might be whether you are going to afford it. So then also we can use the MATLAB environment. Yeah. Kirti Kiran is raised hand. Yeah, Kirti. Kirti Kiran. You can unmute and talk. So this session is entirely dedicated to interactive questions.
Sir,
Yeah, Kirti
regarding
Kiran.
CNN, we have the image size like 224 by 224.
Okay.
So whether if we are changing our data set to that particular resolution, is it going to affect our accuracy?
No. So the prior to image classification. So using the convolution neural network. So I will tell you my experience. So where I worked on the image classification, so cancer image classification, right?
Okay.
So whether the malignant or benign. So when we get the images from the like hospitals, right?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we may encounter the gray matter or something, the background noise from your images, right? So straight away we can apply the model. So might be then we can encounter some model overfitting using the convolution neural network. So how do we do the model complexity or model overfitting? So obviously we can reduce the gray matter or the background noise from your image data. Obviously, right? So how do we reduce the background or the gray matter from your images? So by using some of the signal processing techniques, we could have that. Signal processing techniques or some of the statistical based like the K means, the median and mean based some techniques. Okay. So which are they not required to our image classification. So indirectly, so we are reducing the noise from your data, which are the best image processing basically. So image processing for your modeling.
Okay.
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 So you got my answer, Kiran?
Yes, sir. Sir, then RGB color images.
Obviously, once we will do the noise reduction now, so obviously again might be some resolution. So like RGB. So that matrix like based on your data. So accordingly, we can reduce our RGB matrix.
Okay.
Right. So once but the primarily we need to work on the image processing first of all, because if you have if you reduce that RGB also, if you have any background noise, might be you may face some model overfitting. So any data, either the image data or in the numeric data. So data pre-processing is very, very important. So we need to noise out the data first of all, right?
Okay,
So,
sir. Okay.
so particularly in image classification. So if it is the medical image data, or might be the mission image data, or any data. So we need to come up with some of the image processing techniques. There are plenty of libraries related to image processing actually. So until
Okay.
and if you don't do the image processing, so may you encounter the model overfitting. Because in my medical data, I can see the plenty of noise actually, the background noise and gray matter, some unwanted noise. So
Yes,
how do
sir.
we do that? We want to eliminate that particular noise using some of the image processing techniques or some of the statistical based techniques.
Okay. Sir,
Okay.
one more thing,
Yeah.
like different image formats like JPG or PNG, BMP. So, is there any problem in of different formats to accuracy or anything like in our process? Whether we
So might be, I think so. So might be you are talking about the image format, right? So
yes, sir.
JPG
Yes,
or
sir.
PNG, right?
Yes, sir.
I think that will be not the big deal for us, right? So might be the
Okay.
sometime so based on our data modeling, sometimes so all the time we could not expect the PNG data or the JPG, or might be we can come up with the any format, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Suppose in machine learning, no, so might be all the time people are most of them, so they will use this CSV. So even the comma separated file, or might be if they are providing the Excel format data, then obviously we can work on the Excel format or a TXT text data.
Yes, sir.
Right. So here might be it's not like a big deal for us. So if it is the PNG data or a JPG data, or might be any data. So if you want to work on from the PNG to JPG, then simply we can make the transformation, right?
Okay. Okay.
So accordingly, it's like our process. No, suppose I'm familiar with the CSV all the time. If it is the Excel format, what I will do simply I will convert it the file, right?
Yes, sir.
Similar way in image processing, so might be some based on the clients and all. Sometimes they will provide the JPG data. Sometimes they will provide the PNG data. Sometimes they will provide some other format. So
Yes, sir.
accordingly, so our modeling and so easiness, so we can make our transformations.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so yeah, team. So this is the interactive session. So what we covered the past 5 days from day 1 to day 5. So any general questions? So how did the data science and machine learning, how the emerging in present days? So another 1 decade. So what is the shape of artificial intelligence, machine learning and deep learning, right? Karuna Paul. Yeah, Karuna. You can unmute and talk.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Yeah.
May I know what is mean by normalization of features, sir? Normalization process.
Yes. Very, very good question, Karina. Yeah. So yeah, she's asking a very good question. So once we will make our features. So in feature engineering part, we talked about the feature creation and feature selection. So once we will create some of the features on your raw data, so then obviously we will make some normalization, because we are bringing into our data between the 0 and 1. So mean is equal to 0, the standard deviation 1. So in modeling, we may see some other modeling techniques. So normalization techniques. So let me share the screen. Second.
Sir.
Yeah. So here, okay. So, and I can share my screen. Could you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes.
put it here. I'm showing the one Jupyter notebook over here, right? So once we have our feature data, so then we can apply some of the normalization techniques, right? So in primarily, we don't know which normalization techniques is suitable for our data normalization. So might be we could come up with the standard scholar, or might be we could come up with the minimax scalar, or might be we could come up with the robust scalar. So most of the time in data science, so we will apply the minimax scaling or minimax normalization. So in minimax normalization, what we will do, we are scaling our data using the minimax algorithm. So what we will do, so we are bringing our data between the 0 and 1. So mean is equal to 0 and standard deviation of 1. So this is the one of the normalization technique for your data. Okay. So and another technique, the standard scalar. This is a yeah. Okay. So here we can apply any one of the normalization techniques so on your data. Standard scholar, minimax normalization, and robust scaling. Okay. Yeah, Ramanuja. yeah, Ramanuja, you can unmute yourself and you can talk. So, yeah. So, any questions so far? Jagan? Yeah, yes, Shiv Prasad, you can unmute and you can talk. Okay, now? Okay, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so team, so if you have any questions, so let me know and I will answer them. So, and might be if you don't have any questions, so then we can end up our session. Okay. So last 5 sessions, so we talked about the machine learning. So in machine learning, so we talked about supervised machine learning and unsupervised machine learning. So in on supervised machine learning, so we gone through the some of the classification algorithms and also regression algorithms. So in unsupervised learning, we studied clustering and dimensionality reduction. So if you have any queries, so based on the past 5 day sessions from day 1 to day 5, so then we can interact. So Bandar Venkatesh. Yeah, Venkatesh, you can unmute and talk.
Hello. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Good morning, sir. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Venkatesh, you can ask your question.
Sir, how we can take the data set, sir?
Can you come again?
Data set will be defaultly we can take from the through the internet or any other existing data, new data. How we can take, sir? Data set.
Yeah, right. So in our data modeling, no, so we have the different partitions, right? So
Yes, sir.
yeah, so what partitions we can consider? So based on the data, so data experimentation, so might be the 70% as a training and 30% as a testing. So or 40% as a training, 20% as a testing, 60% as a training, and 40% as a testing. So might be we could come up with the different partitions. 80, 20, 65, 35, 70, 30, 80, 20. It's like so at initial point of data modeling, so we experiment the data with different splittings. Okay, so then we can see your model accuracy with different partition 70-30. So what is my model accuracy? 80-20. What is my model accuracy? So then we will come to know so which partition is suitable for our modeling. But straight away, all the time we can consider the 70 or 30, 80 into 20. Okay, Venkatesh? Okay. Srinivasu. Yes, Srinivasu, you can unmute and talk.
Hello, good morning, sir. Hello. Hello, good morning, sir. Hello. Good morning, sir. Hello. Hello. Hello, good morning, sir. Hello, good morning, sir.
Hello.
Good morning,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Srinivas Govinkar is available now. You can
Okay,
continue with the question and you can.
Okay, sir. Okay. Good morning, sir. Hello.
So Lata is asking about modal ensembles, bagging, random forest. So which one is the best? So might be once we do the data modeling, so we could come to know so whether the bagging is performing good or the random forest performing is the good. Both are the good algorithms. Any applications of a machine learning and deep learning and VLSI design? Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Tim. So I'm very happy to with you. So from day 1 to day 5. So we so almost we have been completed all our machine learning sessions from day 1 to day 5. So if you don't have any questions, so then we will end up our session. So thank you so much for your time. So all these difficulty time, Corona and everything. So might be right. So if you don't have any queries or questions from your side, so we are going to conclude our session today. So this is the interactive session, right? So might be the
Balaji, you can unmute and
yeah.
Sir, good morning, sir.
So can I end up the session?
Yes, sir. Sir, good morning, sir. Govindra, sir. Hello. Sir, is it audible?